Welcome to our brand new feature on the Powder Coater podcast called In the News with Kim and Jim. Get ready for a fast-paced discussion on topics including coatings news, industry trends, climate initiatives, the right to repair, innovations, and more. Join me along with my co-host, Jim Kunkel, as we bring you what you need to know and maybe some of what you don't. Stay relevant in your business and stay tuned for our brand new Power Hour, where the temperature rises and every minute counts. Welcome back to the In the News with Kim and Jim. Jim, I have a special announcement.
What is it?
I have recorded this is our 200th episode. On the podcast, the Powder Coater podcast. I have recorded and published over 200 episodes or content. So some of it is news, as we have kind of merged this into a kind of commentary news podcast or episode. But we also have, I've recorded lots of other pieces of news and content over the years, including over 70 interviews with experts in the field. So I am very happy to announce this milestone. Thanks for joining me today, Jim. And I'm so happy. I love this show that you and I do every month.
It's fun.
It is fun. And we're always kind of playing with it. Like, let's do this, let's do that. We're just feeling our way. Yeah, freestyle.
But Kim, on your milestone, it's epic. And congratulations to you and Ross. And also to your whole community who gives you all the undying support and shows you all the gratitude, because you really are delivering great content to each and every one who subscribes, follows you. And when they share it to others, it really helps a lot. So appreciate everybody too.
I do. I really do. And we're kind of slowly starting this little buzzy community, So I'm happy to do another month of show with you, a monthly show. It just seemed like we just recorded that one and now we're up for another one. So, but there is no shortage of content. And
True.
That includes today's coverage. We've got lots to talk about. So Jim, why don't you get started, and then I'll type up the banner here, because what are we going to talk about first?
So what we're going to talk about first, I'm going to go ahead and bring it up, is that the revision of the U.S. economic growth during the last quarter was revised from 1.6% down to 1.3%. And what's keeping the American economy moving forward is still the consumer. The consumers are still spending. And I myself, as it shows a photo of a truck here, also contributing to that. My wife and I just this past weekend bought a hybrid vehicle, an SUV. And so people who are still out there really buying and driving the economy out there. But as it says here from the AP, the U.S. economy grew at a sluggish 1.3 annual pace from January through March. And this is the weakest quarterly rate since the spring of 2022, the government said Thursday, in a downgrade from its previous estimate. Consumer spending rose, but at a slower pace than previously thought, a sign that higher interest rates and lingering inflation are pressuring household budgets. And we know now, based on what the Fed just announced, that there's not going to be any type of rate change up or down before the upcoming November election. So we're still going to see this continued level of higher than normal inflation. And then also, too, probably the continuation of some sluggish economic news. Hopefully the consumers won't lose faith and continue to buy. But that being said, and Kim, you probably heard this, and I'm sure everyone might be even experiencing it, is that at this point in time, credit card debt held by private individuals is at an all-time high. And so that is not a good combination to have with a sluggish economy.
Right?
Correct. Yes.
So are they saying, do you think that some of the increase in spending is from inflation, or just that consumers in general are feeling more hopeful that things will turn around soon in the economy, and that if they just will it will a better economy into existence? That's what I'm wondering. It seems like we're kind of in this influx mode.
Correct. And when you really look and also too, I had the opportunity to take a look at several different economists, and here's what they say is that, and you could see it on this chart that's up there in front of us. We had the pandemic hit and everything just dropped. Spending stopped, production stopped, and then we had this huge rebound
Yeah.
at the endemic. And so you can see the uptick on it and then a sharp drop back to what we would say kind of normal levels. But it still stayed in a positive direction as we moved into 2021, into parts of 2022. When we hit that first quarter of 2022, that's when things started to kind of show some weakness in that. But what a lot of the economic experts say is that the mindset today, in the generations, is that when you look at boomers, a lot of the boomers' mindset was, if I don't have the cash, I'm either probably not going to put it on a credit card, or I'm going to really overanalyze it. Do I need to get this? Do I need to put it on a credit card, or do I need to get a loan to get this? And so what you're finding too is, now that we're in 2024, we have boomers that are retired, they're on fixed incomes, but we have this large number of millennials and also current generations in that they're willing to go in a negative position on credit because they are still in that consumer mindset.
Right.
And so that's, I think, a big difference, is a generational difference that we're seeing. I'm the same way too. I am a mindset. I'd rather put it in the bank or put it into investments and try to grow it. And the last vehicle we bought was over 5 years ago. And so for us, really kind of trading in the vehicle, getting a new vehicle, we typically don't do that in a 5-year cycle. But we were able to get a really great deal because guess what? Some of these car sales are not doing so well. And so you have a lot of dealerships that have a lot of inventory and are willing to wheel and deal and do other different types of specials. But this particular article don't really go into this, but a lot of the indicators here are talking about, it says here, 70% of the economic growth is from consumer spending. And that grew a 2% annual rate, which is really down from 2.5 in the first estimate, from a 3% plus rate in the previous 2 quarters. So what we're seeing is that these numbers come out, the government will release these economic numbers, and then they're winding them backwards. So me telling people out there who are watching this right now is that the next time when we have the next economic numbers drop, at least expect it to drop anywhere from a 0.5% to a full percent down. And so that can be a little discerning, but also too, I think we need to be honest with everybody and say, listen, we're in for a little bit of a slow slug here. The question is, are we going into a recession, a true recession, or are we going to have kind of a level kind of rebound where we kind of balance out and then things flip? And usually you don't know you're in a recession. If you think about it, you have to have like 2 quarters of negative GDP growth. By the time you realize you're in a recession, you've already been in it for quite a while.
That's correct. Yeah.
And usually by the time you recognize you're in a recession, you're already onto the road for recovery.
Right.
So,
right. Well, I don't have this article in front of me, but I do remember that they removed, is it coffee from, did you read that, where they removed coffee from the CPI, the core inflation?
Correct. Yeah. For the inflation, they do that from time to time.
They'll do anything to make their numbers look better, right? I mean, when is the government that honest, right? So this goes hand in hand with,
Yeah, I think with the CPI, the real indicator is when you and I and everyone watching this right now, when we go to the store and we buy the coffee. And, like right now, the hot articles this week in news stories were about fast food places that, you could buy 2 meals and it could be $20+ for 2 meals. And, you remember going into McDonald's, maybe 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, you weren't paying anywhere near that. You could almost go to a decent, not a restaurant, but more of a chain restaurant and get what I would say more of a cooked meal at that for almost the same price that you're paying for a meal at a fast food place.
Yeah, here locally, Wendy's had just announced that their pricing was going to go up about a month ago. And I binge on once a week. Ross and I will eat a hamburger at Wendy's, right? And it went the week before, it was $25 and some change. And the following week, in fact, the day that I went was the day of their price increase, and it went up $3 and some change for the same meal. And I'm like, hey, did you add something to my meal that I don't, I just want to reconfirm. And oh no, our prices went up today. And I'm like, wow, that's crazy. So $3 more for the same, combo meal for two, right? So that's a big one.
It is. And where you're located at, you're paying a premium already.
Right.
Because of your, and the remote aspect of the Hawaiian Islands. So,
right. Yeah. Well, that's very interesting. And I have something to share that is also related, but more specific to the powder coating industry. So I'm happy to share that. Here we go. So this is the Global Powder Coatings quarterly newsletter. I am a member of PCI, the Powder Coating Institute, and they just announced their first quarter for global estimates or growth for powder coatings or powder. It's based on powder sales. And overall, I would say that it's mixed. Asia did have a slight increase of 1.2 in volume, but mostly North America was estimated down 1% for volume year over year. Manufacturing activity is stable but not growing, is what they're stating here on this. This is just the first quarter for 2024. And then in Europe, they estimated that the powder market lost a 1% in volume. And I know that they were hopefully expecting Europe to kind of make a rebound. I know talking to some other powder coaters in that region, they were kind of looking for more of a boost. But so far, Latin America is up 2%. And so it's kind of a mixed bag, Jim. I don't know what to think about it. And I think that this kind of goes hand in hand with your perspective or your article, because it's mixed, right? It's still kind of going up, but we're kind of on this precipice. Like we keep kind of walking up to the edge and then stepping away. Something positive will come into the news. And stuff, and then we'll kind of walk back to the edge again. So I'd certainly feel that way as a business owner in Hawaii right now. We just got interviewed for a local article because we've been surviving on grant money since the fires because things have ticked down so much. So we've received over $14,000 in grant money just to kind of make ends meet and cover. It certainly helped. So I'll make sure to share that article because probably by the time we record this, it should be published. They were interviewing other grant recipients as well. This particular grant we were given was over $9,000. So we do whatever we can here, but it does take some level of organization to receive a grant. And so the journalist that was interviewing me was saying that actually they were giving out more grants to larger companies that had, lots of employees and stuff. And they were obviously larger sums than small business, but that there weren't a lot of small businesses getting or capable of receiving these, grants. And I think a lot of it has to do with, well, how do you prove your income if
Yeah.
all your stuff got burned? And also, like, how, you know, you have to be organized, which means you have to be current with your taxes,
Yeah.
and you have to be current with your tax filings and stuff like that. So you have to be at a certain level even to receive a grant, because you have to claim that income at the end of the year. So it's probably pretty hard for a lot of small businesses to get those grants. So we're very grateful. Just wanted to share that, and I'll be sure to share that in a future episode.
Perfect. And as Kim had mentioned, what I wanted to go over next is the data intelligence report regarding the protective coatings market size and annual and growth from 2024 to 2031. The report does kind of point out a couple of companies for future growth potential. AkzoNobel, to be clear on transparent on it, I work for AkzoNobel. And then also the Sherwin-Williams Company. I don't have a copy of the report yet because you do have to purchase it, but I was able to get excerpts from it. And where you see the growth of the industrial coatings market is in what's called emerging technologies. When we're looking at such things as lithium resources, and I'm talking about mining on the extraction side, the processing side, the transport side of that, the battery plants, EV battery plants that are being built. Canada is really charging forward with building more EV vehicle factories in Canada, where here in the States, some of the companies have kind of backed off a little bit on production, kind of slowing down until things kind of stabilize, let's say, in the EV market here. But I can tell you that the batteries are definitely being built and all that process still goes on. Asia Pacific is a hot market. China still drives, but a lot of the Asia Pacific countries are driving the growth, and it's roughly about a 5.5 to 5.7. And really where everything's heading to, the projection is by 2031, you're going to see the market grow, like I say, 5.5 to 5.7, and ultimately around 2030, 2031, reach $105 billion globally just in the industrial coating side. And,
Wow.
a lot of these companies, Akzo, Sherwin, PPG, a lot of the major manufacturers out there are also involved in commercial paint, the architectural, the residential. So you can imagine that the size and the growth of the overall coatings and paints industry globally is a huge potential. And it all comes down to more demand on aesthetics and then corrosion. In fact, one of the last things I'll talk about is the problem that the Australian Navy has regarding unprecedented corrosion that's impacting their operational readiness of their submarine fleet. And so companies, countries, regions are really looking at the corrosion impact and trying to also address that and tackle it versus kick the can down the road. We're seeing that in the States. Kim, I'm sure probably you see it because you're in an environment where anything that's steel and it's not properly protected will corrode easily. We have infrastructure here in the lower 48s that is absolutely a disaster with corrosion and other type of erosion and issues that are related to really the effects of corrosion. So,
Yeah, it's a big issue. And I'm glad that there's a group out there that is fighting against corrosion, right? So Jim, did you hear about PPG had made a big announcement about building a new facility in Tennessee? I'm going to bring up that article right
yes,
now.
let me take
Yes.
mine down here for you.
It's going to be in the Knoxville area. It's $300 million investment. I think it's kind of ironic that they picked a state that is very conservative and pro-business. I think you'll see a lot of companies now moving, and think about all of the support companies that will be coming in around this $300 million investment. It's going to be a 250,000 square foot facility where they'll be manufacturing paint and powder. Let's see, the article also, it's going to focus on the autos, like you said, the automotive parts suppliers, automakers. So they didn't say specifically EV, but I would probably say something around that. They also think that they're going to be adding some other industrial segments to that facility as well, including heavy duty equipment and building and construction and consumer products. So this is going to be interesting. They plan on having 130 full-time employees. So if you're looking for work, this will be completed in 2026. And they are looking at producing more than 11 million gallons of paint and coatings annually. So big news out of PPG. So that's good for them.
Yeah, it makes sense because in Tennessee there is so much vehicle manufacturing, also a lot of different construction equipment. So it does make sense to kind of pursue that. The other thing too that's kind of working in is that you have the Tennessee Titans are going to build a multi-billion. I don't know if it's a billion. I think it might be a couple $1 billion new stadium. So those are things that are kind of looming for economic development. Nashville is on fire still. And I think the whole state of Tennessee has been in a boom for quite a number of years. So good for them.
It's kind of funny when you look at these. I mean, it's obvious at this point. I don't even know if I need to state this, but you are seeing a lot of exodus from liberal states, like California is experiencing a lot of that. And maybe they want to shed those people. I don't know. I mean, obviously they're now in a budget deficit where 18 months ago they were in a budget positive state, right? They had, a surplus for a change. But now you're starting to see our companies choosing things politically, right? Moving to states that are specifically pro-business or that be it maybe anti-business or anti-chemical or whatever, like they're moving away from those states. So it's certainly giving those that are staying in those states to continue to work with regulators like the anodizers and the powder coaters out in California.
Yeah.
And that are, where they're getting challenged. In fact, I'll probably be interviewing someone real soon from the powder coating industry that actually is going head to head and meeting with these environmental EPA people that are, creating these new specifications, new expectations for powder coaters and anodizers and stuff. And they're actually going to go to them directly and say, okay, let's put some math behind this. We're going to collect our data and give it to you, and then you're going to respond to us, and we're going to see where we meet, right? So I'm hoping for a positive outcome for this particular powder cone, but I will be definitely interviewing them as soon as they hear more about the response and stuff.
And in fact, it's another update regarding right to repair. We were talking about Iowa and some of the other states, and Kim and I, we got into the discussion about how it makes sense to do state by state. We're never going to see probably the federal government make a wide sweeping right to repair law. So why not go state to state? Plus, it makes it harder for the advocates of, hey, I want to control the device. Even though you paid for it, I want to control it. I want to be the one that does the repair, not you have a determination to self-repair or take it to an economic choice of where you want to get it repaired at. So what's really nice about this right to repair law in Colorado, it will be the most broadest and really more in depth. The downside to it is they've kind of thrown a little bit of a favor to companies like Apple and some of the other ones who have been really anti right to repair. They've delayed it until January 1st of 2026. So they're giving well over a year plus for companies to get ready for it. Although we've seen Apple and others really kind of prepare for what's coming. So, it's good to see these continuation of these states going in the right to repair. And again, it shows an iPhone on here, but just so everyone knows, this right to repair is going to be for anything. It could be a farm equipment that you have, instead of waiting for someone from the manufacturer to come to, change a circuit board or run a patch on a software. Now the farmer can do it. You as a consumer, if you want to take it to a repair facility with your iPhone or your Android phone or whatever it might be, have that ability to have it repaired, or like I say, do it yourself as well.
Jim, I have a great follow-up article to your article. Now, you and I have been talking about this for a long time, and you sent me a Google article a while ago, which kind of started the whole show that we have today, which is in the news. And it was just basically a blog post. I'm not sure where you got, if it came into your email or what, but it was basically saying, like, telling you exactly that. You have one choice to go to. Don't mess with your phone. You have to go to this place. And if you touch it, we're not going to, we don't want you to touch it, right? That's our data. So I actually got a email from AT&T, get a checkup for your warranty before my warranty expires. I don't even know if I have a warranty, did I even pay for some extra warranty or whatever? Who knows? So I click it, and it takes me to get your device checkup. Just schedule an appointment at You Break It, I Fix It by Assurion store. That was the specific link that they provided in that Google. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Yes. So I clicked the link, which I'll do now. And it takes me to, an account, like start my account, which I did not. But if you click Assurion, it'll take you to the website and all the stuff that they can fix for you. And it's kind of like, remember the old Sears warranty kind of stuff?
Yeah.
Where, you would pay for all this and then they'd come out. It's kind of like that. This company, believe it or not, Assurion, has been in business. There's a couple of different things. I've looked at it, that they said they've been around since 1992. Another report said that they've been around since 1994. I remember reading CNET, and they said 94. But they say that they have 10,000 stores or locations. But I'm going to show you something different here in a minute. But they are currently serving Verizon, AT&T, Amazon, Cricket, US Cellular, and Samsung. Interestingly enough, Google is not on this page, which is kind of funny, but that they service phone, home tech, appliance, and then they also give you tech help as well. I went over to their YouTube channel. And what's funny is they do have a series of, I think, over 300 videos about how to repair things yourself, which doesn't make sense at all if this is a repair only site. Like, you want them to call us, right? So maybe I didn't watch too many of their videos, but I just wanted to kind of get I just kind of had piqued my curiosity of what they had. And so this You Break It, You Fix It is a subsidiary of Assurion. And so it's kind of interesting how this is all starting to play out. Like, they just want you to call them, no big deal. But when you go over to, and give me a second here, I'm going to stop sharing this and then click over to a new tab. When you search the BBB, right? Because they're proudly a BBB member. Hey, we've landed on the Better Business Bureau's tab for Assurion, and let me tell you, the complaints are endless. This one was just from May 22nd, just a few days ago from this recording, May 22nd. And it's just this long, like, this is what happened to me, and I'm in Missouri and they wanted me to do this, this, and that. I mean, it's just endless, right? Endless complaints, and they're getting at least, a few every month. So it's not, to me, adding up for why I want to have anything to do with getting someone to fix my phone for me when I should have the right to repair it myself or go somewhere else. I should have more choices. We'll make sure to put the links in the description here, as always, whenever we can. But, it's just sort of like, I guess my report is just sort of like trying to kind of put, a spotlight on it so that you're aware as a consumer how this is now playing out, right?
Yeah, and the other thing too, I think as each of the states like dominoes start to fall and we get a little bit of mass movement to right to repair, that will create any type of opportunity. When you create an economic opportunity, you're going to start to see other providers start to do the service. You'll probably get some really good entrepreneurs that'll say, I'm a tech geek and I want to be able to do this in the Pittsburgh market or in Maui and do that. So I think you'll start to see more variety, and this way you don't have to worry about. I know about these places. Actually, I was out in Phoenix last week, and one of the restaurants I went to, right next to it had the "You break it, we fix it" location. And
Yeah.
I'm not sure if those aren't. I always thought those were franchises, but
no, they're actually a division of Assurian.
Okay,
which is the insurance part of it. And I looked locally what we had, because they said they had 10,000. So when they say they have 10,000, I was kind of, at first I was thinking, okay, are they going to be inside AT&T stores or Verizon stores for that matter? Like, is that going to happen? Because they already have established stores everywhere, right?
Yeah, this was a retail location I saw.
Yeah. And so, yes, I looked in my local area and there isn't anything on my island, but there is on Oahu. There's two. But I was surprised that there was even two. I still going to have to, if something happens to my phone, if I had this Assurian, and obviously they're saying I do. So that's why I was kind of suspicious. I didn't really want to click and create an account because I didn't really want to acknowledge the fact that am I engaging by having an account, right? You have to be careful about that sometimes,
Kim, do you have an iPhone or you have an Android?
I have an iPhone, yeah.
So you need to do an interview for the next 600 episodes, 200 episodes. Is Tim Cook from
right.
from Apple, and just anytime it breaks, you can call Tim up and he'll send you a new iPhone.
Right, exactly, yeah. What's his email? Do you have it? No.
Tim.cook@apple.com. It's probably
is it really? Yeah, right.
I'm sure. Yeah.
It's probably something simple.
I can tell you he probably never gets email. He has somebody who does all the email.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So the mainland, the Chinese communists view Taiwan as a province, part of their country. And so they claim they want to have reunification, which means we want to do like we did at Hong Kong, get in there and take them over and absorb them into Greater China. So the challenge that's happening right now is that a lot of countries, when it comes to naval fleets and preparedness, is you're stretched thin or you have some issues. And a major issue came up with Australia, where half of one of their class of subs, over half of them, are having unexpected corrosion issues in the framing and also in ballast tanks and fuel tanks. Some of these are still traditional diesel tanks or diesel subs, excuse me. But then also too, any of the nuclear vessels too, they can be very prone to corrosion as well. So corrosion continues to be a very major threat. to operational readiness of not only naval fleets, but also with the military collectively and globally as well. So I think this is kind of shocking for Australia, and hopefully it will send a corrective action that they need to address corrosion and seriously get in there with engineers and professionals to do assessments on coatings, corrosion issues, look at also to the structural integrity of these, because think about it, if there was a major conflict that were to happen, and now all of a sudden you have uh, challenges because half of your submarine fleet, or at least say a class of submarines, and I don't know what that number really is. It could be 25, 50, 100. It doesn't matter. If you can't go 100% with all your submarines, you're at a disadvantage.
Absolutely. I mean, at this point, they already have like taken off the pants, so to speak, right? So, and does the article say how old these vessels are, or I was just kind of curious
Yeah,
if it does.
a lot of these vessels were first built into the 90s and early
Hmm.
2000s. So again, when it comes down to it, a lot of times where it's expensive to build new fleets, and the same thing here domestically. I live in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. If I go to Norfolk, Virginia, I can go to Philadelphia and see what they call the mothball fleet.
Right.
And there are a lot of naval vessels that were built in the 50s and 60s and 70s and 80s that are still relied
Yes.
on for operational readiness. When we think about the Mighty Mo, the big battleship that the Imperial Japan had surrendered on, that was
Been on it.
fighting. That was fighting. It's in Pearl Harbor, yeah.
Yeah.
It was fighting in the Gulf War in 19. What was that? 1990, 1991.
Hmm.
It was used as a diversionary because it could fire shells 26
Yeah.
miles inland. But we don't have any. We don't have the big ships like that anymore. Those are gone. But again, when it comes to operational readiness, we've got to make sure we can tackle these corrosion issues and we stay ahead of it, because it this what happened here was something that should not have happened. And that's not only in my opinion, but a lot of military experts. When I read this article and looked into it a little deeper, they were shocked that this got to this point, and it was so drastic to pull offline all these submarines because of frame corrosion, ballast tank issues, fuel tank issues, and it doesn't make sense. It's a head scratcher.
Well, this next article is about cybersecurity. And a while back, we had a restaurant called Zippy's. It's a local restaurant. If you've ever been to Hawaii, you know that Zippy's restaurant is kind of like an affordable, family-friendly place. We have one, they're pretty much on all islands, and they serve a lot of local comfort food. They're known for their chili and their chicken plates and stuff like that. And I know about this story because I attended a business convention prior, like I think it was 2019. So it was right before COVID, because they haven't had a live event. I think this year was the first time they brought it back. But the CEO of Zippy's actually was one of the panelists, and he talked about how they went through this horrendous POS data breach, and how it began, and how, the steps that they went through. Never mind all of the PR nightmare that they went through as well. So he kind of talked about it all. It started with a phishing email, and that came through the main office, and one of their employees uh, unknowingly clicked on it and downloaded the file, of course, and then obviously that was that, right? Um, and then it took 6 months for this virus to infect all of those computers in the office, and then jumped into the POS data from the back end of their office to the front end of their business. Now, POS, if you don't know, is a point of sale. It was where you swipe your card, all that kind of stuff. This was not somebody that kind of came up behind you and did a swipe on your card or anything like this. Was not a physical meeting. This was actually just all digital. And the story that this guy talked about on stage was jaw-dropping, especially for such a popular restaurant. In the days after the breach, they, obviously had to deal with not only the containment of the bad news, right? The Zippies had to do this full PR, but also the federal government and the FBI came and got involved along with the state and everyone else to kind of help them sort out the problem and how and what took place. So it happened between 2017 and 2018. So by the time he came up on stage, all of this had been resolved. They were just going through a the court part where they had to do a payout to the people that's credit cards had been compromised. And it was just a fascinating. So that got me on to, and I don't know how I arrived at this, but I'm going to make sure that this checklist is included in the link in the description for this, because every company should have this. And I love this. So let me switch over to this other tab here where, like I said, I don't even know how I get so much email and then I click through things and I forget how I ended up on this, but I'm going to include a 2024 cybersecurity checklist for small business. This was put out by Hawaiian Telecom, which is owned by a telecommunication company out of Cincinnati, Ohio, believe it or not. But in this link, and it's actually a downloadable PDF as well, are just basically a small little thing about that 71% of ransomware attacks impact small businesses. Now, that's different from the Zippies one where they were just swiping and collecting data from people's cards as they swiped it. But ransomwares are just as obviously top of, easy for small businesses to kind of get involved with, right? Where they are completely locked out of their networks and can't do anything until they pay. There's been some pretty high profile ones in the news lately. I won't get into that because what I want to show with you today there are, I think, 10 or 11 questions that you should be asking yourself as the owner or, top CEO of your company. Some of the more important questions about whether or not it's sort of like a questionnaire to kind of, kind of work through to say, am I doing the best that I can? So I've highlighted 3. First one for me is, are updates routinely installed on all devices on your networks? This one kind of, I'm always hyper about that. I don't know if you are, Jim, but when I get an update, if it's an iPhone one, I'll give it a day or two, or just to kind of let them work out the bugs and stuff. But pretty much, I know that if you have a Windows, they just automatically do it now. They don't even wait. You've basically lost your rights on updating. That does kind of relate back to the right to repair too, doesn't it? But the update, you want to keep updates on all your devices on your network for sure. And then, do employees receive regular security awareness training? Are you talking about this at your meetings, and keeping, your company and your employees aware of this and have it top of mind when they are going through their emails? And because the cyber criminals are probably watching you before you're even thinking about them, you watching them.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
A tale of caution.
Totally.
Think before you click.
Yeah, definitely. It just needs to be constantly top of mind no matter how big or small your business is. And don't put it off. I think that's where a lot of, in the case of Zippy's, I think that if they had some kind of employee policy about an awareness about opening up suspicious emails, it probably would have been completely avoided.
Yeah.
But it's just something that has to be kind of included as part of the policy for any employee. So, Jim, thanks so much for joining us today. And thank you, audience, on this 200th episode.
Yeah.
And I'm so happy that I'm doing it with you, Jim. I have
Oh,
someone to celebrate with. I'm going to try to put a little
yeah.
emoji birthday cake on this video so people
Yeah.
can understand that
it's my honor.
Yeah. I enjoy it. And I can't believe it's another month of doing this with you. We're now down to 3 episodes, and there's just going to be even more coming up because there's no shortage of news, is there?
No, it's always ever evolving and getting more complex.
Absolutely. And we're getting better at it. So if you want to see an article, make sure to comment below and like, share, and subscribe the podcast. It's the Powder Coater Podcast. We're on YouTube. We're all over the place. We're online wherever you listen or watch your podcast. So thanks again for joining us. Thanks again, Jim, for sharing this special milestone with us on the podcast.
Thank you, everybody.
Aloha.